everyone. I'm Dr. Onkar Singh, and we are celebrating Naturopathic Medicine Week. Today is our last informative video, and I'm very pleased to have Dr. Mary-Leah Albano joining me this morning. Hi, Dr. Albano.
Hi, Dr. Singh. Thanks so much for having me.
And thank you. Looks like where you're sitting, it looks beautiful right now.
Yeah, well, it's been a gorgeous week, gorgeous day. So I thought, given the topic, I might do this interview outside today.
Fantastic, fantastic. Dr. Albano has been practicing at Holistic Healing Arts for the past 9 years. She's an amazing naturopathic doctor who's very eclectic, is also IV certified. And today's topic is very interesting. It is on the healing power of nature. This is something, obviously, that's one of our basic and main tenets of naturopathic medicine. But I do find, Dr. Albano, it's not something we discuss too often. So I'm very happy and pleased that you decided to share this topic with us. The first question that I'm going to ask you, Dr. Albano, is how would you define the healing power of nature?
Well, I'll start by answering that. Just, I guess, to explain first, maybe why I chose the topic.
Mhm.
And like you said, it is one of our tenets, and that's one of the amazing reasons, actually, why I chose it was because we have in naturopathic medicine, as naturopathic doctors, we have 6 main sort of principles that we believe in and we follow. And I'll just list those quickly, and then I'll move on to answer your question directly.
Of course.
Um, and so those include first, to do no harm.
Mhm.
I'll just list, I'll get into them. Doctor as teacher, we do a lot of education as naturopaths. Preventative medicine, identifying and treating the cause,
Mhm.
treating the whole person, and finally, the healing power of nature.
Mhm.
And so what does that really mean? The healing power of nature, really intuitively, is, we look at what can nature do for us in terms of and what does it provide? What does Mother Nature provide for us from a healing standpoint? And there's much that, especially as naturopathic doctors, obviously we believe in, and as far as what the medicinal benefits of nature. And I'll talk a little bit about that today. There, in Latin, the healing power of nature, we call it the vis medicatrix naturae, or we refer to it as just the vis, V-I-S. And this is what we believe to be the body's inherent ability to heal itself.
Mhm.
So I'll start with that because this is talking about sort of the healing power of nature within us. So as humans, as animals, and we believe that. I'll give you an example. So if you were to cut yourself, let's say by accident, you cut your finger, and you did nothing else to heal that, assuming you didn't have any other healing disorders,
Right.
your body would heal itself. It would send out the factors it needed to clot the blood and the immune response. And it's a pretty amazing thing, if you think about it, that the body would heal that cut, and you would be whole again, if you will. And so that's what we call the vis, this
Mhm.
sort of intangible ability of the body to heal itself, and this is wisdom. And it starts there, and that having that belief as naturopathic doctors, our job really is our facilitators. We don't cure anything. We just try to tap into that body's natural ability to do so, and to support that process. An extension of that, then, so that's an explanation, I guess, of the vis within us
Right.
as humans. Then the healing of power of nature, as far as Mother Earth herself and everything she provides. So the healing power of herbs, of different everything in the environment that we may understand and have access to, and that's another element of what we try to understand and use and respect in our practice. And so this idea of different herbs, I'll give an example maybe of as I look around in my natural yard here, dandelions.
Yes.
So we see dandelions as maybe a bit of a pest and a weed in our society or our culture, but they're one of the first foods for the bees. There'll be that first flower that they go to, and the dandelion is really an amazing. Again, not a weed, but an herb, and a medicinal aid. And in naturopathic medicine, the healing power of that particular herb is a detoxifier. The root is great for the liver, as you know. The leaves are great for the kidneys. We can eat the all parts of it, including the flowers as well. Now, this is assuming they haven't been treated or sprayed or anything like that. We want to be safe.
Right.
That's just one simple example of what something in the environment that we've come to understand has this potential healing ability. And again, the body will do what it's going to do and try to heal itself, but how can we help that along? And could we use something like dandelion for someone who needs a digestive support or liver support or kidney support, for example?
Wow. Wow. It's amazing. You've touched on some very, very deep concepts there. And as you said, there's healing not only in the external environment, where you're giving this example of just dandelion, but also, as you said, in our own internal environment as well. We have the capacity, as you said, that innate healing. And even without any intervention, the body is going to know, at least in terms of direction of healing. And I think, as practitioners, that is definitely a very rewarding experience when you can recommend those sort of building blocks or signals to influence that innate healing.
Yeah, certainly. And again, we're humbled by what the body can do,
Yes.
and we help that and help and try and understand it the best that we can, and help it along so that people can feel better.
Wonderful. So Dr. Albano, you have touched a bit about on the next question, but I was going to ask you, what are the health benefits of nature?
So this, there really are so many, and I think it's one of these topics that we're understanding more and more. It's one of the areas that I'd really like to touch on in terms of the healing power of nature, and what are those potential healing powers, come from just being in the environment itself. So I touched on, what is the healing power of nature in terms of within ourselves, and that vis within plants and things from the environment. But I'm going to answer your question as it relates to the environment itself. So just being outside, again, one of the reasons why I chose to do this interview outdoors. And we're at such a beautiful time of year right now, and having beautiful weather this week, thankfully, that we can try to tap into that. So there's been some really interesting research that has come out and is building upon, even just within the last 5 years, about the healing power of being in nature. So physically present in a natural environment. So whether that just be like I'm out on my porch right now, for example, or going through a walk through a forest, or just putting your face under the sun, being present in that natural environment. And one of the terms, and maybe you've heard of this, I'm sure you have, and other people listening, is this concept called forest bathing. Have you heard of that, Dr. Singh?
Yes.
Yeah. So it actually stems from Japanese culture, and I hope I don't butcher this, but the term there is called Shinrin Yoku, and it's this concept that there is this ability when you're walking through a forest, for example, it's this practice of immersing yourself completely in nature in all 5 senses. And so what they've done is, a lot of the research that is out there, it's limited, but is coming from Japan, and testing these theories. So they've done some really interesting things. And when they test some of these theories, for example, they'll have people walk through a forest, all things being equal versus walking in a lab, or
Mm,
indoor. And they test different things. And some of the things that they're seeing health-wise are really quite interesting. So they're seeing improvements in stress, improvements in mood, improvements in cardiovascular health, so in blood pressure, improvements in immunity, in the immune response. And so I'm going to expand on those because it's really the research is really quite interesting. I think we all know when we go outside, or even just me being outside versus indoors, say in an office right now, that there's a calmness to being in nature. I'm hearing the birds,
absolutely.
feeling the breeze. Yeah, I'm hearing some cars go by, but that's all a part of it. But there's even a sense of awe, if you let yourself really be present with it and take it in. So definitely stress, and one of the things they're finding in the research, and maybe it all is stemming back to this, is a reduction in the blood. They're actually testing this in the blood. Cortisol goes down. So you did a beautiful, wonderful lecture on Monday, talking about stress management. And if the listeners here haven't had a chance to watch it, please do. It's about 15 minutes, really jam-packed, full of good information. And you speak about stress management and the concept of cortisol being released from the adrenals, and reduction of cortisol and the improvements of health as a result. And that's what they're actually finding when they test people who have been in nature. So it would be, for example, like a 40-minute walk through a forest, or even just 30 minutes over a week span. They're seeing reduction in actual cortisol levels, and therefore improvement in blood pressure, improvement in immune status, improvement in cells which are called natural killer cells, which actually seek out cancer cells. And so the idea is interesting. Can we be utilizing this in some way to help support the immune response to be more robust against cancer cells, for example? So these are the types of things that are coming out, and I'm sure we're just scratching the surface in terms of like what nature is really doing for us. So I have more data I can certainly share with you today, and it's all just really, really fascinating. Like recovery rates from surgery, if you had a view of a tree-lined view versus a brick wall view from your hospital window, for example, you had like better recovery rates, lower pain rates, being able to be discharged from the hospital sooner. It's really fascinating.
Yeah, it is fascinating. I'm just listening to you and just taking all this in, and you touched on so many, again, with this question, wonderful, wonderful concepts, and it's really good, Dr. Albano, to hear sort of the details, especially the physiological effects. As you said earlier, we all know how we feel when we're connected with nature, when we're outside. As you said, it's very healing. You're in awe. You feel more calmer. The vibration of just and frequencies of being in nature is very healing. I also, I find myself, when I do, if I'm sitting near a lake or just looking at trees and the sunlight, there's a sense of inspiration, the creativity potential that we all have. But moreover, it was wonderful to hear all of those physiological benefits that you were going over. It's very, very fascinating. Um, so how can individuals and people tap into the healing power of nature? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, and that's the nice thing, is because it's all around us. I mean, we're part of it, right? We're part of this world and nature. And even though we might be spending a lot of time indoors, being so the obvious of being in outdoors, as some of the research has suggested, and it doesn't need to be a lot of time. It's not like we need to take a 40-minute cedar forest walk every day. It can be as simple as, within the course of a week, you're getting in about a 30-minute connection with being outdoors. But even with that one research I mentioned too about just having a view, you don't even need to be outside. Actually, exposing yourself to pictures of nature, or listening to music, kind of like they do at a spa, or even watching perhaps a nature DVD. So it doesn't necessarily have to be that you're immersing yourself in it. That's wonderful, of course, but there's research around that as well, and they're showing that you're seeing similar, if not the same, benefits even from bringing nature indoors. So perhaps keeping plants in your rooms of your house, for individuals maybe who can't go outside or who are recovering or something like that, especially now, maybe individuals can't go outside or don't have the opportunity to. Then bringing it indoors, maybe having a picture on the wall. I think just being present with it, and maybe now like having a sense of the potential. Again, we know how we feel when we're in nature, but realizing those potential physical health effects might be encouraging to create that sort of serene environment even indoors as well. So I think it's in a variety of different ways, and it doesn't need to be complex. It is wonderful if you can be outside and you can go for walks and you can use those five senses like the Japanese have suggested. So you touch the bark and you're feeling the experience, but you can probably also close your eyes and visualize it and get that similar response. If you think back to you being along the coast and the beach, and it all comes back to you. That likely has a similar effect.
Wonderful. And you beat me too, because I was going to actually ask you, what about in those situations where some people unfortunately are unable to, due to whatever those constraints or reasons maybe to get outside, but you've touched upon it, is that's where you try to bring nature inside, right? And I think that's amazing. And then I think after hearing your discussion today, for those of us who are able to get outside but don't actually do that as often, I'm sure your discussion today is going to definitely motivate us from taking a break from that binge watching of Netflix these days, and actually going outside and immersing. I mean, what you're basically speaking of is, let's go and immerse ourselves and become, so to speak, one with nature. And as you said, just it's a matter of closing your eyes, and just letting all those frequencies of nature, and connecting with them.
Yeah, and I think it doesn't take a lot of time. So if we incorporate that into our day, and even into our work day, perhaps, being able to step outside for 5 minutes and kind of reset, however that might look. Again, I don't think it needs to be complex, but it can make a world of difference. And we're starting to understand how the changes that happen in our bodies, in explaining how we feel. We already feel it, but what's really happening there. And I think the other thing to mention too, and even think about, is knowing this, how do we then encourage that in different environments? So even in a healing place, like in a hospital, do we have more views of nature, or do we have a little area where someone could walk out in a little garden, or do we have more rooftop gardens in urban center? So it almost like an infrastructure. The implications of some of this initial research could be far-reaching.
Amazing. Well, Dr. Albano, you've touched on some very, very powerful concepts, and I'm truly inspired, just by listening to you. And after this, I'm going to go outside and cut the lawn and go for a walk. Yes, just amazing. Thank you for taking the time and having this talk. As I said, it's not, the healing and power of nature is not something we discuss too often, but I think it couldn't have been more timely than it was today.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and I'm happy to be a part of Naturopathic Medicine Week. And it's been a great week. So I encourage people to go onto our Facebook page and check out all the videos, because we've had some really interesting information. So thank you so much for taking the time, Dr. Singh.
And thank you. So to everyone who's watching, thank you for listening to our discussion. Very powerful talk by Dr. Albano on the healing power of nature. And we look forward to connecting with you guys in the future. Everyone have a good day. And as Dr. Albano said, let's go and heal ourselves and connect with nature. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Bye.